talk about one of the most exciting parts of the Dubli compensation plan. That's the D2G2. This is our front-end compensation. And the best way to understand this is to understand that we really have almost, you can think about it like it's almost two compensation plans running simultaneously. You have the back-end unilevel compensation plan and the structure that we created with that. And if you've watched the rank advancement video, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But as the people are structured out with three who get three, and you move up through team leader and team coordinator, that's the unilevel structure of the back-end compensation plan, and that remains intact. What the D2G2 is rather is an additional bonus structure that is created utilizing the same people. So the same folks, as they're getting plugged into the unilevel, are also getting put into this structure so that the bonuses can be determined for how much you and I should be paid for our team building efforts. So just think about it like you have two compensation plans running concurrently. One of them is a back-end residual income calculation, and the other is a front-end team building bonus calculation. So I'm going to show you how, as you're adding people into your unilevel, how they populate here, and how that is going to in turn create bonuses and income for you on the team building side. So first things first, let's get some definitions out of the way. This is the front end, or the D2G2, and what the D2 stands for is dual team. What that means is that for front end or recruiting bonuses, you're going to be compensated on two lines or two legs of business. You're going to have a common leg or a team leg, and then you're going to have a personal, or what some folks call a money leg. And how these are defined is this: everyone has a sponsor. Whatever side of your sponsor's business you fall on, and in this case you fall on the right side of your sponsor's business in our example here, your leg that you have on the same side is your common leg. So in this case you fall on your sponsor's right side, so your right leg is your common or your team leg. Your inside leg would be your personal or your money leg. Okay, and these definitions are going to become important as we go on, but just know that we'll refer to the common leg as the leg you have in common with your sponsor, and your personal or team leg is the leg that you will personally be responsible for building and growing. Okay, so let's just begin with a discussion of, let's say you recruit one person, and this is your first guy right here, and this is Bob. Okay, and we recruit Bob, and Bob goes on the first level. Okay. And so now for unilevel or back-end income purposes, you're going to be earning residuals on whatever Bob would generate for you based on your position, whether it's team member or if you came in at PPA, TLA, or team leader, excuse me. Okay? But on the recruiting side now, Bob is going to be placed either on one side of your business or the other. And there's a setting in your back office where you get to determine whether someone would be placed on your team leg, your common leg, or on your personal or your money leg. Okay, there's a setting in the back office where you get to choose that. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that we placed Bob in your team leg. Okay, so that would be your first guy. And then let's say that you came over here and you then recruited Sue, and Sue got put on your front level as well, because isn't that what we do? Well, in the unilevel, Sue would be put on your front level just like this, and you're on your way to becoming a team leader. However, in the D2G2 now, Sue would be placed on the other side in your personal or your money leg. Okay? Now, once you have one on your left and one on your right, or one in your common and one in your personal leg, okay, that's when you're now qualified to earn in the D2G2. So once you have this done, you're initially going to earn 10%, okay, on personally sponsored BAs. Always, 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 you're going to earn 10% on personally sponsored BAs. So, as an example, if let's say that Bob came in at $4.95 and Sue came in at $24.75, you would earn a quick start bonus of about $50 on Bob and about $250 on Sue right away. Right up front. These are called quick start bonuses, and it's 10%. And that's true for the next person you recruit, and the next person you recruit, and the next person you recruit. But in addition, by getting these first two people in position here, you're now qualified to earn 10%, what we call cycle bonuses. Okay? And that means that you're going to earn a 10% commission every time a certain amount of volume cycles in your business. And here's how volume is generated. As we continue to build out, I'm going to demonstrate it for you. So now let's say that Bob here is going to continue his team building efforts. So Bob introduces his first new person, and they're on Bob's inside leg. And then Bob introduces another person, and Bob puts them in his common leg, because this Bob's common leg is the leg he shares in common with you. So Bob puts them here. Now what that's done is that has now generated volume. So let's say that this was $4.95 and this was $4.95. Well, then what's happened is you now have 990 in new volume in this leg. Everybody with me? Okay. Now you have 990 in volume happening over here. Now let's say that Sue introduces someone new and puts them in her inside, and she recruits her first person that goes on the outside, or on her. By the way, now Sue, not to confuse things, but now Sue's common leg is the leg she shares in common with you. So Sue's common leg is actually on the left, and her personal or money leg is on the right. So don't always assume that the common leg or the team leg is the left and the personal, in other words, kind of leave left and right out of the conversation and just think about it in terms of common leg, which is the leg you share in common with your sponsor, and personal leg, which is the leg that you are personally responsible for building out. And I'm going to get into more detail into why they call it a personal or a money leg here in just a second. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that Sue brought in two new people. This was a $24.75 and this was a $4.95. Now this volume here actually comes out to 3,970. 3,970 in volume. Okay? So what's happened now is you've got 990 in volume on your right, and you got 3,970 in volume on your left. Okay? Or I should say 990 in your common leg and 3,970 in your personal leg. So the company pays out every time $400 in volume cycles. So at the end of the week, now it's Sunday at midnight, the company's going to look and say, how many cycles does this person get paid on? Well, let's see. There's 400 per cycle, right? So 400 goes into 990 twice, with 190 left over. Okay? In 3,970, 400 goes into 3,970 9 times. Okay? And with 370 left over. So what happens is now, the company's going to look and say, okay, there's 9 potential cycles here. There's 2 potential cycles here. They match in that we're going to pay out these 2. And that would reduce this to 7. And so now what you have is the company's going to pay you on 2 cycles because you've matched 400 in volume now on each side twice for this week. So you're at the 10% level because you have your first 2. And so what happens is now 400 plus 400 is 800. So you have 800 in volume, okay, that is going to be paid out because it's basically 2 cycles. So 10% of 800 in volume is $80. So you just made $80, which is basically 2 times $40 cycle. Okay? I know this is confusing, so go back and watch it again if you need to. Watch it as many times as it takes for it to make sense. But now what's happened is, because you were already paid on 800 worth of volume, that leaves 190 in volume in this leg, and 800 in volume out of this leg. Don't pay attention to this. 800 in volume out of this leg would leave you with 3,170. And what happens is now you start the next week with 3,170 in volume on this side and 190 in volume on this side. And once this builds to 400, you'll have another cycle and you'll be paid again. Does that make sense? Okay. So now if you want to get paid more than 10%, here's what you can do. You can recruit a third person. So let's say that this is Jimmy, just for argument's sake, okay? Jimmy, you've decided, needs to go in your common leg because that's where you have less volume. Are you beginning to see the logic of how we're going to build this? You're always going to put people where you have the least amount of volume so that you can cycle. So Jimmy is your number 3. So you're going to put Jimmy, and you can only put Jimmy on either your common or your personal leg. You can't decide, you have no choice. They got to go into one or the other because this is a two-sided team here. So 3 now is Jimmy, and you decide to put Jimmy in your common leg. So guess what? Jimmy, who's your number 3, goes right here. Now what's really interesting about that is that you just added somebody to this person's team, and you just added somebody to Bob's team as well, because this is their common leg that they share in common with you. That's what's exciting about a common leg, is that you just added a new person, you see, in your number 3 here. But by doing that, you also added someone to this person's business and Bob's business. And that's why they call it a common leg or a team leg, because what this is known as is spillover. So let's say that, your sponsor recruits someone new. Well, that new person would come right down here and fall somewhere underneath Bob and this person and Jimmy. Does that make sense? And so you're going to have something called spillover in your common legs. But the reason why this is called a personal leg is because there is no spillover here. This is going to be based purely on your efforts and the efforts of your team. Okay? So now you put Jimmy over here, and then you recruit number 4. Okay? And number 4 now, you're going to put over here in your personal leg. And why would you do that? Because obviously you have less volume over here. But the reason why you want to do that is because you want to move up now to the 15% level. And how that's going to work is when Jimmy gets his first 2, and our nifty number 4 here gets his first 2, you now have what is known as 1, 2, 3, 4 qualified people in your business, equally distributed, 2 on the left, 2 on the right, or 2 in the common, 2 in the personal, and you're now at 15%. So now when you begin to cycle, you're not earning 10%, you're earning 15%. And then if you want to keep going and you want to build it up to 20%, all you'd need to do is introduce one more and one more. And this would be number 5, and this would be number 6. And maybe you put number 5 right here. And maybe you put number 6 right here. And once you help 6 get his 2 and 5 gets his 2, then now what you have is you have 6 total qualified BAs in your organization, 3 on each side of your business. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? We're all frontline sponsored to you here. But in our D2G2 illustration now, and in our D2G2 structure, they were evenly spaced out, 3 on the left, 3 on the right. Each one of them had their first 2 personally sponsored. You can see here, here's number 1 with 2, here's number 2 with 2, here's 3 with 2, 4 with 2. And once that happens, you're now eligible for 20%. So now you're earning 20% every time you cycle. So we'll go back to our original volumes here. You had 190 in volume over here. You had 3170 in volume over here at the end of last week, right? Now, just to keep things simple, I'm just going to say it's 500 in volume for each one of these. I don't like doing the math, minus 5 and all the rest of that. We're just going to keep it really simple. But you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 new people join your business over here. And 6 times $500 or so in volume is $3,000. So now at the end of this week you have $3,190 in volume. On this side, same thing. You had $3,000 plus $3,170, so you have $6,170 now on this side in volume. So how many cycles is that? How many cycles is $3,190 in volume on this side and $6,170 in volume on this side? Well, let's take a look. $3,190 divided by 400 is 7.975. So there were 7 cycles in here. So this is 7 cycles, because 400 goes into 3190, 2800 is 7 times. Okay, so there's 7 cycles, or 2800 in volume on this side. So now you're going to take out 7 cycles, or 2800 in volume, out of this side, and that's what you're going to be paid on. So what's 20% of 2800? 2800 times 20% is $560. So you just made $560 in cycle bonuses on the volume that was created here. The great news is that 3190 minus 2800 is you still have 390 in volume on this side, and you still have 3,370 in volume on this side that's going to carry over into next week. So you never lose any of your volume. At the end of every week, the company just goes, hey, how many cycles is that? And then they pay out. So this is the cycle bonuses that you earn. And you can build up from 10 to 15 to 20%. In addition to the cycle bonuses, you're also going to earn what is called frontline bonuses, or frontline commissions. So if you're at the 20% level and you personally sponsored, I forget, Jimmy. This was Jimmy. Okay. If Jimmy just, for example, made, $400 this week, you get a 20% cut of that because Jimmy is personally sponsored to you. So you're going to make 20% of everything that your personally sponsored BAs earn. So in our case, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 personally sponsored BAs. So at the end of that same week, the company's going to take what Jimmy earned, what Bob earned, what Sue earned, they're going to add that all together, and they're going to multiply it by 20%, and that's going to be additional money. So in addition to your 560 now, the company's going to add 20% of what all they made. So in this case, if Jimmy made 400, then you would make an extra $80. Okay, if number 4 over here made I don't know, $800, okay, then you would make an additional $160. And so the company's going to take 20% additional. They're not taking 20% away from those people. They're just looking at what those people made, and they're giving you an additional 20% bonus on top of that, because they are personally sponsored to you. And that's why it's so valuable in this model to continue to personally sponsor, because you can really begin to build up some fantastic incomes this way. So you're going to earn cycle bonuses, which was the 560 that you made on the money that cycled here, and you're going to earn matching bonuses, which are the bonuses you receive matching your personal frontline sponsored bonuses for that week. In addition, you can also earn generational, but I'm not even going to get into that here. Once you begin to promote people to the same level position that you're at, you'll earn generational bonuses on top of that as well. And we'll just leave that part alone for now. So just know that your back-end unilevel is going to continue to build the same way that we already talked about in the other 2 videos. And what happens now is that you're looking at those same people being plugged into this structure over here, so the company can determine how much money they should pay you that week for your team building efforts. But this is extraordinarily powerful, because if you look, everybody's got a common leg. And I'll just finish off with this. As your volume now continues to increase and continues to grow, you're going to be receiving spillover volume from, at a minimum, your sponsor, but maybe even other people. For example, this person right here is receiving spillover volume from this person, this person, this person, and your sponsor. This guy way down here is receiving spillover volume from this person, Jimmy, this person, Bob, you, and your sponsor. So you're always, or should, over time, as your business matures, have more volume in your common leg than you do in your personal leg. And then what happens is, every time you add one new person to your personal leg, boom, you cycle. Boom, you cycle. Because you're always going to have more volume there. In our example, you had more volume over here, but that's because you had a couple of PPAs, right? But in time, understand that because of this common leg, or this team leg, over time, you're going to have significantly greater volume in that common leg than you have in your personal leg. So every time you add a new person, boom, you cycle, and then you get those matching bonuses as well. So that is the D2G2. Happy hunting!